Jason graduated from Peking University. I came from a second-tier college. The third time he urged me to study abroad. I broke up with him. I know I'm not someone you can show off. There's no point in this. I thought Jason was vain, that he looked down on my second-tier degree as unworthy of him. Only later did I learn he'd prepared my materials and applied to schools for me, just to make it easier to persuade his father, a high-ranking officer, and his mother, a university professor. I'd pictured running into Jason 1,000 ways. Maybe we'd resent each other. Maybe we'd trade a forgiving smile. I never pictured this. A blizzard shut the road. My little Yadea scooter rear-ended Jason's big Audi. Worse, it was all on me. The traffic cops quickly took photos and assigned blame. When it came time to sign the liability form, I buried my face deep in my scarf and didn't dare look up. After 3 years, Jason stood there in a black overcoat, cool-eyed and distant, untouchable as ever. Luckily, I looked nothing like before, and I was bundled up so only my eyes showed. He probably didn't recognize me. He just said, brief as ever, add me on WeChat so we can discuss the repairs. I was ridiculously relieved. 3 years ago, I'd changed my name and ID. Even my WeChat and phone number were new. I muttered a hoarse, The road was slushy, the snow deep and hard to walk through. Jason's gaze flicked over the cracked, frostbitten skin on my hands. Where do you live? I'll give you a ride. When we first started dating, I gave Jason a scarf, and he wore it often. I thought he was afraid of the cold, which was why he always wore turtlenecks. Later, I learned his skin was delicate, and he was allergic to cheap fabrics. Those sweaters hid not just the scarf, but his pride. Like now, after I'd just hit his car. He was calm, gentlemanly. I refused. No need. Someone's coming to pick me up. Maybe people rarely turned Jason down. His tone cooled. Unreadable. I see. I was lying, of course. No one was coming. I waited an hour until the cold dulled my mind. A car rolled up in front of me. The window slid down and Jason said, expression flat, get in. I glanced at the ride-hailing app still showing a long queue. After weighing it, I opened the door. He drove steadily. Neither of us spoke. The silence smothered me. Thanks. You can drop me at the next intersection. Jason acted like he hadn't heard. Only after I repeated myself did he give a beat late. Okay. I was twisting my hem to shreds. Embarrassment dawning. Our breakup had been that ugly. I'd said almost every cutting thing I could. What if Jason had recognized me? For other people, running into an ex is a happy surprise. For me, I was probably the last ex Jason ever wanted to see. Back then, I'd just come from a small city to college and fell in love at first sight with the boy from the school next door. Jason said, if you place top 3 in your major, I'll accept your pursuit. So, I studied like mad. In the quiet, empty classroom, Jason bent his head to explain problems to me. I kept spacing out. Jason would tap my forehead with his pen and warn, look at the questions! Stop sneaking looks at me. When the grades came out, I was 4th, 1 point short. When Jason arrived, I pressed my lips together and wouldn't look at him. He lifted my chin, assessing me. You really didn't meet my standard. I sank deeper into gloom, ready to give up. Then Jason's cool voice sounded again. But I'm at fault too. I didn't teach you well. As punishment, Isabel, I'll be the one chasing you. After we got together, there was always gossip. When Jason's friends came to warn me to know my place, I said, if love lasts, who cares about rich or poor? When my best friend told me couples should be well matched, I said, socialism has no classes. I always thought Jason was just lucky, born into the right family. I worked hard and stayed upright, kind and sincere. I wasn't any worse than him. I was great, worthy of all the love in the world. Did I think about forever back then? Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. No one thought we'd make it, yet we dated for 4 years, long enough that Jason's friends became mine. Long enough that he took me home to meet his parents. Long enough that his whole circle accepted me and offered genuine blessings. So in the end, why did it have to end so gracelessly? As I got out of the car, I brushed the door by accident. Something fell from my pocket. A pale yellow coin purse. I froze and reached for it on instinct, but someone beat me to it. Jason looked over what he held and said evenly, "Looks nice. What brand?" Brand? There wasn't one. Jason had sewn it for me himself. Back then, I rode the bus to my part-time job every day and stuffed change everywhere. I tossed out a brand name I made up. Thankfully, it had been so long he'd probably forgotten. I snatched the purse back, unable to stay any longer. Jason suddenly called out, "Wait." I pretended not to hear and kept walking. His voice came again. "Isabel." Through clenched teeth, "How long are you going to pretend you don't know me?" I felt my blood turn to ice. Maybe it was the cold, the heavy snow. 3 years later, on the day I ran into Jason again, I didn't dare look back. I fled, but the fender bender still had to be resolved. The next day, Jason and I sat in a cafe. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw he'd ordered an Americano. There's a joke online that people born with a silver spoon, the only bitterness they ever taste is an Americano. But that wasn't Jason. He likes sweets and lattes. All his life, he'd never even tasted an Americano's bitterness. We tacitly avoided the past. "Let's discuss the repair bill," Jason said, setting down his cup. "New bumper and paint. Comes to 100,000, I blurted. "That expensive?" Then, remembering what that car cost, I fell silent. "I can't come up with that much right now." Jason lowered his eyes. "Can't. Huh." He looked up, voice steady. "I can forego the repair fee if you tell me why you stood me up back then." I paused, realizing he meant the study abroad plan. After graduation, we decided to do grad school together. Applications, food, housing. Jason arranged everything. And on the day we were to fly to New York, I didn't show. Traffic jam. I missed it. "There's a subway straight to the airport and you're telling me traffic?" I went quiet. "I want to stay here for grad school." "Then say so. I'd have stayed here with you." Jason let out a sharp laugh. He stood and, step by step, boxed me in between the chairs. "I waited at the airport all day. You wouldn't take my calls, wouldn't reply on WeChat. When I finally got through, you broke up with me." I saw the veins stand out as he pressed me. "Tell me, why did we break up?" I'd rarely seen him this forceful. Outsiders called Jason cold and indifferent, but with me, he'd always tried to be gentle. Do I really have to spell it out? I didn't look at the hand clamped around my wrist and kept my voice flat. "Why else do people break up?" "I didn't love you anymore." Jason's face went cold, but before he could speak, his phone rang. A woman's voice came through. "Jason, kept you waiting?" Her tone was intimate. "I told you not to come pick me up, and yet here you are." I lowered my head. Now I understood why he'd chosen this place. I knew that voice. Julia, Jason's childhood friend, and once his fiancée. Maybe it was because of that call that Jason finally let me go. Always the gentleman. He straightened his clothes and slipped back into his usual composed, distant self. Before leaving, he looked back at me, enunciating each word. 100,000. Not a penny less. That night, I went through my savings. I transferred the only 30,000 I had. He accepted it without comment. I sighed. The next morning, I got up to deliver milk. After losing my job, I'd taken this as a stopgap. Mornings delivering milk, afternoons running a food stall. This was a high-end neighborhood. After putting the milk in the box, I turned and saw Jason. He leaned against the doorframe, his expression unreadable. "How much do you make delivering one bottle?" 2 yuan. Tiring? Not really. After a few short exchanges, silence fell again. Jason said, "I'll set it up so you deliver here for a month." Through his figure, I spotted a pair of women's slippers on the shoe rack, the color Julia liked. So they were already living together. Well, that was how it should be. Good for them. As I was leaving, Jason stopped me. 2 yuan a bottle. How many bottles to make up 70,000? I turned back. Jason's face was blank as he asked again, "Why did we break up?" "I told you I didn't love you anymore." "Then why not?" His temper snapped, voice raised. I suddenly asked, "Starch sausage is 3 yuan each. How much for 2? Jason answered on reflex, 6. See? That's the reason. I finally gave him the answer he'd wanted. We weren't a match. We were never meant to be. Jason suddenly laughed. But there was no humor in his eyes. My mother already gave you the bracelet meant for her daughter-in-law. My father had started arranging the engagement. And now you tell me we're not a match? He looked furious. Tell me the real reason, and you won't have to pay the 100,000. I pulled my wrist free, lowering my gaze. I'll pay. My voice was slow and steady. Credit cards, loans, I'll pay you back. Another ugly parting. I kept delivering milk to Jason every day. He complained I came too late, accused the milk of being watered down. Jason had always been well-mannered, but with me, he picked at everything. I'm sorry. Could you not leave a bad review? Please. 2 yuan earned per bottle, 50 docked for a negative rating. Jason only sneered, then slammed the door shut. I sighed. I knew he hated me now. To pay off the 100,000 as soon as possible, I woke earlier, took on more orders. I hated that 4 a.m. hour. Like now, when a drunk stumbling out of a bar grabbed my arm. Slurring nonsense, he tugged impatiently at my clothes. In the scuffle, a glass bottle shattered, shards slicing my calf. I never saw when Jason appeared, just heard the drunk's howl of pain, then felt a warm coat drape over me. I knew it was wrong to wear an ex's coat after a breakup, but I clutched it tight, unable to let go. Jason led me inside, cleaned my wound with antiseptic. It wasn't deep, but he tended to it for a long time. I grew uneasy, until suddenly he asked, "Does this happen a lot?" I froze, then realized he meant the harassment. Back in the old district. Sometimes, since moving here, security's good. It's the first time. I thought a moment, then added, "Thanks for helping me. I'll wash your coat and return it." Jason stood, tossed the cotton swab into the trash. From the corner of my eye, I saw some empty beer cans. He'd always been refined, preferring wine. When we were dating, I used to tease him, calling him princess. When had he started drinking beer? I hurried to finish the delivery. "It's just a scratch. My food stall's doing well too. I'll pay you back soon, don't worry." Jason lowered his head. I couldn't see his expression. "Forget the 100,000. I blinked, stunned. He repeated, "Forget it. As for why you broke up with me," my body stiffened, bracing for him to press again. But he only transferred the 30,000 back. "If you don't want to say, then don't." He never looked at me. His voice muffled. "I'm not trying to force you. You don't have to work yourself to death." Jason bought all the remaining milk. Still, he dragged me to the hospital. The doctor gave me a tetanus shot. I started to thank him, but he cut me off impatiently. "You've said it a dozen times already. I'm sick of hearing it," the doctor teased. "Young man, be gentler with your girlfriend." I rushed to explain. "You've got it wrong. We're not together." I thought Jason would be glad to hear it. But as we left the hospital, his face was still cold, unhappy. "Really? That desperate to deny me? What? Am I some kind of stain on you?" He lashed out. I stayed quiet. When his anger ebbed, I whispered, "No, you're great. Good looking, good family, good personality. Capable, everything about you is great." I wasn't lying. Almost everyone who knew him would agree. Jason's cold expression flickered, his eyes trembling. Suddenly he turned to me, lips pressed tight, uncharacteristically fragile. He asked softly, "Really?" I'm that great? Then why would someone like me still get abandoned? My heart lurched, afraid to meet his eyes. That day was like a nightmare. It keeps replaying in my head. I keep asking myself, what did I do to upset you? You didn't even give me a chance to explain. Just past sentence. Jason closed in step by step. What did I do wrong? His eyes were red as he shook, repeating, just the day before, you kissed me first. Then the next day, you broke up. Isabel, what did I do wrong? I couldn't stop retreating, nearly falling apart. Looking at the anguish in Jason's eyes, my heart twisted tight, making it hard to breathe. In that moment, I almost blurted out the truth of what had happened back then. Told him how wronged I'd been. But then I thought of those slippers in his apartment. The past was gone like smoke. My reappearance now could only be a blemish on him. I didn't dare meet his eyes. Don't make yourself out as the victim. I dug my nails into my palm, forcing my voice cold. Not loving someone doesn't need a reason. We're adults. Let's have some dignity. Jason, stop looking at me that way. That looks so lost, so close to breaking. I was afraid I'd soften. That night, lying in bed, I clicked into Jason's moments again, for the umpteenth time. His latest post was from the winter solstice, a photo of heavy snow. I stared at it a long while, guessing it was taken in Iceland. Every winter solstice, Jason went skiing there. When I was dating him, I was always defiant. People said he only ate imported Chilean cherries, so I brought Jason big Yantai cherries. At the winter solstice, I took him back to Shandong. Under the streetlights, the snow in Changdao was no different from the snow in Iceland. In our final year before graduation, we went back to Changdao once more. Jason's gaze was softer than the streetlight. When will you accept my proposal? I pointed at an orange tree jutting out from a yard by the road. Perfect timing. Oranges are my favorite. I joked. Princess, when this tree bears fruit, bring me one, and I'll say yes. Jason stared at that tree for a long time, his expression devout. All right. After the breakup, I never went back to Changdao. Jason slipped back into the life that had always been meant for him. The straight line distance between China and Iceland is 7,777 kilometers, across mountains and oceans. So why did I ever believe Iceland and Changdao were the same? When I delivered milk again, Jason no longer waited at the door. The second time I came, yesterday's bottles were still untouched. I sighed and silently collected them. Jason was picky, so I always chose the best-looking bottles to deliver. I wondered if he noticed, though they all looked the same. My thoughts spiraled until my phone rang in my pocket. I answered, and after a pause, replied coolly, I got it. Hanging up, my mood sank. It was a call from prison. Jack was demanding to see me again. It had been 6 months since last time. I was shocked to see him gaunt, his face already carrying death. And in fact, it was true. His tone was cautious. My illness can't be cured. I only have days left. I shot back. And aren't you supposed to die? Jack froze. Maybe at the brink of death, his conscience stirred. His voice shook as he pleaded. Isabel, you're my only family left. Before I die, could you call me Dad once? I stood at once, unwilling to stay another second. My voice was ice. You don't deserve it. Outside, I breathed the fresh air, staring into the distance until the hatred in my chest slowly ebbed. Near graduation, someone once told me my father was waiting outside the school gates. I thought it was a joke. My mother had said my father died when I was born. So where had this father suddenly come from? But the moment I saw Jack, I believed it, because we had the same eyes. When he was young, he used those soulful eyes to charm my mother into marriage, then turned to domestic violence. My mother divorced him without hesitation and moved us to another city. Later, Jack wasted himself away, drunk and debauched, and strangled 2 sisters by accident. He served over a decade in prison. Now released, he came looking for me to support him. The once charming eyes had turned murky. The first thing he did was grab at me for money. I slapped him and had security throw him out. My mother's whole life was bitter. Tormented by marriage when young, she worked herself to the bone to raise me, only to fall sick and die before enjoying anything. I felt nothing for Jack, only hatred. Because of my coldness, his attempts to mooch off me failed again and again. I was thankful Jason was abroad at competitions, spared from meeting that scum. I couldn't allow such a ticking bomb near me. Jack was a drunk, lecherous, greedy mess. Quietly, I started looking for a chance to send him back in. But before I found it, Jack did something that chilled me. Somehow, he learned where Jason's mother taught at university. By the time I rushed over, he was rolling on the ground, shouting, "If you want to marry my daughter, 1 million in bride price, no less." I'll never forget that humiliation. Like a slap across my face, under the blazing sun, I felt like a rat crawling out of the gutter, terrified. I didn't dare look at Mrs. Smith's expression. Dragging Jack away, I nearly fled. In that moment, my hatred for him peaked. Why did you go to her? Why cause a scene? Rage mixed with despair left me barely standing. Jack kept cursing. "You bitch. Already saving money for them before you're even married. Who doesn't ask for a bride price?" I lost control, smashing a bottle over his head. "You deserve to die. You belong in hell." But even then, I held back my strength. Jack's life was already over, but I couldn't let him destroy mine. When Mrs. Smith spoke to me, her tone was still gentle. "Isabel, you're a good girl." Just that simple sentence brought tears to my eyes. "Jason really likes you. His father and I respect his choice too." She took me to see Jason's room. Opening the door revealed a wall full of trophies and certificates. "We're not a backward, old-fashioned family," she said, running her fingers over the piano by the wall. Even without knowing brands, I could see its worth. Jason has always been an easy child, our pride since he was little. So when he told us about you, we were surprised, but we accepted it happily. Family background, education, those are secondary. As long as you love each other, that's all that matters. My chest felt heavy, but I said nothing. "That's why I gave you the bracelet meant for my daughter-in-law," she sighed. I froze, mouth opening, but no words came. "Actually, your father once approached Jason," she said. My head shot up in shock. "Mrs. Smith smiled faintly. The bodyguard stopped him. He asked for 200,000 in bride price. I gave it to him. For the Smith family, it was nothing. It was the right thing to do. But I didn't know then he was a murderer. The tea before me had gone cold, and my fingertips too. "Mrs. Smith continued, "Our family only has one requirement for Jason's partner, that her family be clean. Just that one simple thing. Isabel, can't you manage even that?" I'd never known words could cut so deep. One sentence, and I was in ruins. Clumsily, I placed the bracelet on the table, bowed, and whispered, "I'm sorry. I'll return the 200,000. I ran far before crouching down, sobbing hard. A clean family, just a clean family. Isabel, why did you have to be the daughter of a murderer? Could a family like Jason's ever accept a stain like me?" I cried a long time before staggering away. In the park, music from a square dance floated again. I grabbed an older woman passing by and asked softly, "Would you let your son marry the daughter of a murderer?" The woman frowned. "Of course not. But what if they're deeply in love?" "Love. Be realistic." She cut me off, then hurried away warily. I kept asking others, but the answers were all the same. If my kid dared, I'd break his legs. There aren't enough women in the world? Better break up now, kids. Like that can't even take civil service exams. Same genes. Who knows if she'll turn out a killer too? Each reply hit me like a hammer, leaving me breathless, vision darkening. Later, people said there was a crazy woman here, raving in the park. Everyone stayed far away, afraid to come near. Only I was left, staring at the sky with tears streaming down. I had always thought of myself as blessed. Though raised by a single mother, she gave me all her love. I grew up free and unburdened, with a good personality, a bit of beauty, genuine and bold, never one to waste myself in inner conflict. I was always good enough, worthy of love. After I started dating Jason, people said I was overreaching, but I didn't care. Yet on that night, for the first time, I felt weak and humiliated. At 22, my belated pride was being torn apart again and again. Jason's message still lay quietly on my phone. I stared at that plane ticket over and over. I should have gone to New York to study architecture, the subject I loved, to graduate and build a career. Everything should have been getting better. Jack, why did you have to appear then? I wanted to fight one last time. I went to Changdao, searching for that orange tree. In my heart, I thought, if it bore fruit, I'd pick one and confess everything to Jason. It was our little secret, carrying my hidden hope. But when I found it, only a bare trunk remained. You mean that tree? The family moved away. No one cared for it, so it withered and died. Hey girl, why are you crying? I could hardly hear the neighbors' concern anymore. All I felt was cold seeping into my bones, my heart freezing. The tree had died. Was that fate? The Smiths weren't the cruel, scheming type of family from TV dramas. On the contrary, they were gracious, cultured, with deep roots. I asked myself, Jason grew up in happiness, wrapped in love for 20 years. After only a few years with you, you'd lay the truth bare, earn his pity, then force him to defy his family, throw away his future, and break his parents' hearts. Isabel, could you really do that? After I broke up with him, I didn't dare hear his reply. I hung up straight away. When Jack burned through his money, he turned to robbery in a drunken spree and went back to prison. After graduation, I worked myself to the bone, juggling 3 jobs a day, until I scraped together 200,000. I sent it quietly to the Smiths. When the clerk asked what name to record, I said, Julian. Just a sliver of light, enough to be remembered. I once had my time with Jason, and that was enough. His future was his, bright and untouchable. Mine too. When I noticed the 3rd delivery of milk still untouched, I knew something was wrong. With the help of the property manager, I opened the door, and the stench of alcohol hit me. I rushed inside to Jason. He was sprawled on the couch. Who knew how much he had drunk? You've been living like this these days? Not a single meal? The floor was littered with cans, and the sight left me gasping. Jason cracked open bleary, drunken eyes, stared for a while, and seemed to recognize me. What, here to lecture me? He tried to drink more, but I snatched it away. He only laughed carelessly. Don't make a fuss. I was like this the whole time after the breakup. I'm pathetic 3 years later, and you can still reduce me to this. I couldn't hold back, shouting, So this is how you destroy yourself? He pushed my hand away and shut his eyes in irritation. Isabel, don't use that tone. I'll misunderstand. You think I'm like this, and you'd actually feel bad? You wouldn't. You're colder than anyone. Jason ended up hospitalized with alcohol poisoning. As I sat dazed outside his ward, Julia appeared. She stared at me for a long time before stepping forward. Long time no see. I took a beat before murmuring. Back when I was with Jason, I had seen Julia a few times. Once she even confronted me. The Smiths are strict. If you're with Jason, it'll be hard. I ignored her. She wasn't angry. For some reason, she kept seeking me out, snatching my snacks, even wearing my clothes. One day, she suddenly blurted, I'm different. I've been rebellious since I was little, and my family always gave in. I thought she was bragging about being loved, and snapped back. So what? I like Jason. Julia glared, stomped her foot, and ran off. Later, I heard she dropped out and flew abroad to study art. Just like she said, she was rebellious. I had even envied her a little back then. With family backing, she could walk away from Peking University like it was nothing. When he wakes up, you take care of him. I'm leaving. I hadn't slept all night and was exhausted, in no mood to argue. Why should I? You're his girlfriend. Of course it's your job. Julia let out a laugh, like she'd heard the funniest thing. Who told you I was his girlfriend? I stayed silent, fiancé or not. Wasn't that the same? Who I like. Can't you see? Julia searched my face, then deflated. Why am I even explaining to you, you blockhead? Only ever throwing yourself at Jason. When Mrs. Smith heard, she rushed to the hospital. I hid in the corner, peeking out. Through my gaze, I saw Julia comforting the crying Mrs. Smith. I lied to Julia, said I left, but I couldn't stay away. Jason had always been pampered, never suffered. Why had he done this to himself, so wasted, so broken? My fingers twisted nervously at my hem, worry gnawing at me. I made up my mind. I'd leave once Jason woke up. I just had to see him safe. At noon, too reluctant to order food, I sat with bottled water and bread. By chance, my eyes met someone else's. I froze. Then he looked away. But my heart started racing. I hadn't been mistaken, those were Jack's eyes. Murky, vicious, laced with despair. It was a middle-aged man in a cap, hands shoved in his pockets, heading for the ward. Mrs. Smith happened to step out just then. The two were about to cross paths. I lunged forward, clutching my bottle, shouting, "Run!" But it was already too late. The man's hand flashed, a gleaming knife in his grip. His eyes went wild as he looked at Mrs. Smith's attire. "People like you with money deserve to die." Mrs. Smith turned pale, frozen in fear. At the critical moment, I crashed into him, knocking him down. The knife meant for her heart veered off. The crowd finally screamed, calling for security. The man turned on me, face twisted. "You die too." We grappled. Luckily, running a food stall had made me strong. After his blade cut into my thigh, security arrived and pinned him down. Blood loss blurred my vision. As I was lifted onto the stretcher, I heard Mrs. Smith's trembling voice. "Isabel. Is it Isabel?" Then everything went dark. When I came to, I was stunned to find myself in the same ward as Jason. Mrs. Smith hurried to my bedside when she saw me awake, asking after me with concern. I shook my head, signaling I was fine. Luckily, it didn't hit anything vital. "With rest, you'll recover." Mrs. Smith's gaze lingered on my wound, her eyes trembling. "Isabel." Her lips parted, tears spilling down. "You suffered to save me. It was my fault. I spoke too harshly back then." From her words, I finally understood her burden. Years ago, Mrs. Smith had sponsored a boy. His mother had died, his father was in prison, and no one cared for him. Pitying him, she covered his living expenses and tuition all the way through college. But the year after he graduated, he was convicted of murder. Just like his father, he'd lashed out and killed someone over a trivial quarrel. That was when Mrs. Smith's heart hardened. She couldn't understand how, despite such different circumstances, father and son had walked the same path. Eventually, she blamed it on genes. Now she apologized. "I'm sorry, Isabel. I was too rash, too biased. It wasn't fair to you. You're different. You're a good girl." Gently, she wiped my tears. "I won't interfere in your relationship anymore. I even kept the past from Jason. Whether to tell him or not, that's for you to decide." I sat in silence for a long time before whispering, "There's no need. It's over now." 3 years later, I no longer knew where Jason's feelings stood, bringing up the past again. If his feelings had changed, would only humiliate us both. My head hung low, heart aching. Then a voice came from beside me. "Isabel, are you going to take everything for granted again?" I turned. Jason was awake, eyes red, voice shaking. "You're deciding for me again. You say it's over, so it's over?" Mrs. Smith had left some time ago. I heard Jason step down from the bed, moving toward me. Back then, my heart clenched. braced for his anger, for him to call me cowardly, a liar, even cruel. Instead, Jason pulled me into his arms. His voice was soft. "It must have been hard on you." My tears fell like rain. How could it not have been? The pain of our breakup, the crushing debt, Jack's constant harassment, nightmares every night, depression every morning, feverish and sick. Yet I couldn't afford a doctor because I was too busy saving money. At my lowest, I secretly called Jason with a new number. Even when he answered, I couldn't speak. Just his single hello. I recorded it, played it back tens of thousands of times. "Don't cry, don't cry. Shh, I'm here." Jason's hoarse voice repeated as he kissed my forehead again and again. "It was my fault. I didn't give you enough security." I sobbed into his shoulder, soaking his collar. "With my complicated family, you always bore the heavier weight in this relationship." Jason's eyes reddened, his tone breaking. "Isabel, give me a chance. Let's not miss each other again. This year, let's see Changdao's snow together. Okay?" The police report came back. The middle-aged man had cancer, and only days left. With expensive medication, he could have lasted longer, but he had no money. Tormented by pain, he lost his mind, which was why he attacked people like Mrs. Smith. Meanwhile, footage of me fighting him spread online. The government awarded me a medal and a bonus for bravery. As my name spread, news also surfaced that my father was a murderer. I thought the comments would be full of abuse, but they weren't. The Qing dynasty's long gone. Why are people still punishing family members? Her dad's crimes have nothing to do with her. Don't be ridiculous. To those cursing her hope next time you face a thug on the street, no one saves you. Ignore them. "Sis, you're so brave. You're amazing." I scrolled through each message carefully. I couldn't stop myself from covering my face. Tears threatening again. I'd cried too much these days. When I healed, Jason and I really did return to Changdao. Standing beneath that orange tree, I couldn't help the gloom in my voice. Too bad it's dead. Jason said nothing, only pulled me into his arms. Later, he led me into the garden. His hand slipped away, uncovering my view. Light flooded in. I froze. Before me stood an orange tree, branches heavy with golden fruit swaying in the breeze. After you left that day, I came back alone. The family was kind, and when they heard my request, they gladly gave me a seedling. Suddenly, Jason dropped to one knee. He looked up, a single orange resting quietly in his palm. "I've cared for this tree for 3 years. This orange, too, is 3 years late." His gaze was tender, his voice solemn. "Now, my girlfriend, will you accept my proposal?" Jason had never believed in fate. He feared the family might neglect the tree, that it would never bear fruit. He feared some accident might take it away. Most of all, he feared our love being tied to such uncertainty. So he chose to take it into his own hands. He found that family, carried the sapling home with care. I don't know what feelings he had while tending it these past 3 years, but it was obvious the tree had thrived. Jason, year after year, spring to fall, you watched its branches fruit, then wither. Waiting. Always waiting. But the one you waited for never came. What did you think in those moments? Tears filled my eyes as I took the orange. Yes, I once believed our love had died with that tree. Just like at 22, when my pride was shattered, my life in ruins, I lost all courage and chose to run. But somewhere I didn't see, someone had dug the soil, planted a sapling with hope, watering, weeding, fertilizing, caring day by day, never giving up. 3 years later, the dead tree faded from memory. The new branches bloomed with fresh flowers. Julian became Isabel once more. Seasons turned, years passed, and the dead wood lived again.